Welcome to the Vibrant Beginnings podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ashley Thomas. This week, I am joined by Sofia. She is a fun-loving and adventurous mama, wife, and teacher. Her children are 3 and 4. Her passions include her children, motherhood, and reading. She loves to travel outside of being a mama and spouse. As a family, they love to be outside, especially going to the beach. With that, I give you Sofia. So welcome to the
Yes.
podcast. I'm excited to hear about your journeys. I've seen them on Facebook and it's just so inspiring to me. And it's definitely stories of hope and inspiration. And you've got such beautiful little babies. And I know you've had 3 births. So you tell us a little bit about
hmm
your journey into motherhood and how some of your births have been a little different. And maybe start with the first one if you'd like, if you
Yes.
want to.
So, yeah, definitely. I'm an open book. Really, I think I've gotten to a point in my journey where I will talk about everything and anything because I've seen it. I've helped like so many moms and friends that have actually gone through so many things, and my inbox like it's always full, and it's kind of sad, but also like it's part of my journey. I was chosen for some reason for this path, right? So
Yeah,
that's how I
definitely.
see it. So, my first pregnancy was over there when I finished college in Atlanta. I was pregnant with a baby girl, and at 29 weeks, I started having some distress symptoms, and doctors just like didn't pay attention to me because I was like this first time mom. And back then, I wasn't as conscious or as knowledgeable or as crunchy as I am now. Perfect,
Yeah.
whatever. I got sent home. My I lost my mucus plug. Like I couldn't sleep all night. I had contractions. I went to the hospital. I remember everything happened so fast, and I have like just spurts of memories, and that's how I can tell the tale because I don't have like a definite timeline. I think my mind kind of erased some stuff to protect me from the pain,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
I remember that first time they just hooked me up to some monitors, and the nurse actually told me the doctor's not going to come in for this. Like, and just put like a fluid IV and send me home. They didn't check the baby. They didn't do anything for me. It was super normal. But then 24 hours later, I was back at the hospital, already about 3 centimeters dilated, like full blown labor. They did a sonogram and they saw I had no amniotic fluid, but they never thought that the outcome I had was going to be the outcome.
Right.
They just thought, well, you're going to have a NICU baby because you're going to have a 30-week old, baby. So Sofia was born. That's her name. Sofia Victoria was born on November 15, 2017 via C-section, and her lungs never expanded. She had a really bad infection. So did I, because my water had broken over a big period of time. I would say like a week, 2 weeks, and nobody noticed. The doctor did not notice. So between her lungs not expanding and that infection, it like crashed her immune system. They couldn't put her on ECMO or anything like that. And she lived for 58 minutes. So that is my first baby. That was, is, and will forever be my first child. It was a very big part of who I am and my history. And I know a lot of people at Life University had never experienced anything like having a person so close experience this. Like nobody talks about this now. It's more open to the public now that people are speaking up. But back then, everyone's like, "What? Like how?" Um. So yeah, that was like my first burst into motherhood. It was pretty sad and traumatic, and they don't hold your hand. um I remember my milk coming in and they're like you just have to deal with it, because your body gives birth, but
Yeah.
your body does not know you lost a child.
Right.
So yeah, that was like my first experience ever of motherhood. Pretty hard and traumatic. And I'm just giving you the bits of pieces of what I remember.
Yeah, of course.
Because again, my mind protects me so much from it. But it never goes away. The grief never goes away. I have two more children. They never replace Sofia, and
Right.
I would never put that burden over them. Um, and you never forget. Like I never forget, and I've made my peace with it. I've helped a lot of people with it. But yeah, that first, it obviously really hard for me.
Yeah. Definitely, especially like this because we met at school. So for people that don't know, we met at school. We met at Lake
Yeah,
University. That's a chiropractic school.
yeah,
Well, typically there are other programs, but that's where we met. And being in what we call the chiropractic bubble, not everyone is in the chiropractic bubble, but you kind of get some of that holistic
hmm,
approach to, the more crunchy lifestyle. You might not start out school that way, like me, but you
yeah,
might become that way a little bit more as you go throughout the program. So, and especially being young, because we're all so young when we go through the program for the most part. There are some
yeah,
older people that it's like second career, but you were so young when all that happened. So it would be uncommon for us to see that. And we would just expect, yeah,
yeah,
baby's going to be healthy, mommy's going to be healthy, no complications or anything. So, um, yeah, I can understand how that would be challenging because there are a lot of people that go through the program that do get pregnant that are in chiropractic school with us
yeah.
or in the undergrad program or any of the programs, the graduate programs that are pregnant. So there's so many babies going around,
I
so many
know.
pregnancies that we hear and see and the beautiful journeys. So it's it's unfortunate that you had to have that experience, but like you said, in terms of your journey, you were probably placed here to be able to share that with all of us and give us your strength
Yeah,
on this journey.
yeah. It was definitely tough going back to school. Like I was about to graduate, and then going back and people not seeing me with a belly, they obviously had questions because you don't go like parading around what happened to you, of course. So I had to stop every like 5 minutes. Hey, like where's your belly? Where's your baby? And it was pretty tough, but I did have a community that showed up. That's something I'm like never gonna forget. I had a lot of people show up. My family showed up, friends showed up, and they supported me throughout the journey. So that's something I'm never gonna forget. And I always pay it forward. Like always, always. Because if it weren't for those people, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah,
So
that's so beautifully said.
yeah. So jumpstart to my second journey.
Yeah, let's get into baby number two.
um yeah, so I moved to Puerto Rico. I met my husband over here and I got pregnant really fast. That's the truth. That's how life happens. I got pregnant really fast and I was I was so obsessed with being a mom because when you lose a baby, you want to be a mom. Um, so when I found out I was pregnant, it was like, oh my God, like it is happening. But with that, you have like 2 minutes of joy and then like the panic starts. I always say pregnancy after loss has been the hardest thing I've ever done. Mentally, emotionally, physically, it was a very hard pregnancy. With a background, okay, let's start with it was in Puerto Rico, where I am actually right now. It's a very different system than
Mm,
from the United States.
okay.
I think that that was very beneficial on my part and for my pregnancy because I came with such a history that the doctors here were able to see me every week. So in the States, I only had like 3 sonograms. They do like first trimester sonogram, like second trimester sonogram. And if they do one more, it's like good. But they don't usually do a lot of sonograms. Over here, I had weekly appointments with sonograms. So I got to see that everything was okay. My doctor, I became really close friends with her because she obviously saw me like
Weekly.
every week because I was like obsessed.
Yeah.
Um, but with that preterm labor, I had to get weekly injections of progesterone. I had to have a nurse in my house. I actually went into preterm labor at 24 weeks. They had to obviously stop that labor. It was too early. I think 24 or 23 weeks. They had to give me high blood pressure medicine to control my labor. And then it was such a toll emotionally that at 37 weeks, I had ongoing contractions, but I wasn't dilating. And at 37 weeks, I went to my doctor and I told her, hey, I can't do this anymore. And I'm proud to admit it to anyone, like, because I know there's like a big taboo around C-sections.
Yeah.
Um, but I told her, like, this is it for me. Like, I can't sleep, I can't eat. Every second that's like going on, I feel my baby's gonna die inside me. So I need you to take him out because
Yeah.
it's like it's gonna be either him or me. Like, this is the situation. Like, I can't do it anymore. And I was like just desperate and crying because I couldn't do it anymore. And my doctor said, you know what, I get it. So let's go have a C-section right now. So I left the doctor's office and I went to have a C-section at Puerto in the hospital in Puerto Rico. And it was interesting.
Yeah.
It was interesting because I mean, you're comparing hospitals in the US with Puerto Rico. You know, we have I wouldn't say limited resources, but it's very different.
Right.
Um, my epidural was very painful. I they tie you up. It was not a gentle C-section. They took the baby right away, and they have like a rule here where you give birth to your baby and then they take it to the NICU or the nursery. And Mateo had a very high bilirubin number, so they took him to get like under the lights.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't spend time with him. Like I couldn't breastfeed him. I couldn't spend time with him. So imagine you losing your baby and then having another baby and then being taken away. I give it back.
Yeah.
I take it away. I give it back. And like there was no conscious, this is after the birth, of course,
Yeah.
no conscious effort of, you know what, we understand your trauma and here's your baby. How can we help you cope?
Yeah.
And it was painful. That C-section was painful. I couldn't walk, like to stand. I remember the pain of like standing up. I couldn't hold my baby. There was no lactation consultant. It was navigating a rainbow baby now, which comes with a lot of like love and guilt
Yeah.
too, because of what could have been. And navigating that gave me a lot of postpartum like anxiety. I had 2 hours. I I thought, you know, I could breastfeed, but I thought he wasn't eating. So I would just like cry myself to sleep. And then at some point, I was just only pumping because I had to see that he was taking like the amount the doctor told me he had to take.
Right.
Again, this is me with another mind. I wasn't
Yeah.
as conscious as I am right now. So it was very tough. It was very tough, but here we are. Do you have any questions for me? I'm talking nonstop.
No, you're doing perfect. You're doing beautiful. Um, well, I would think that, going from, well, I guess here's the other thing too. What I've heard through other moms is, when you have your loss of a child, whether it's miscarriage or where it goes to more term like yours was pretty far along when you lost. Um,
Mhm.
with the second one, they're like, I didn't want to have all these ultrasounds, but I felt like I needed to for reassurance. So I think that's a valuable point too, that sometimes we have to change our birth plan or be flexible on how we're going to birth or mindset wise too. So I think that's a valuable point. And then with your case, yeah, it's definitely interesting, like the postpartum part, being mindful of that with who you're choosing for doctors or who you're choosing to surround yourself with, to be mindful of what you went through with your first pregnancy versus second pregnancy as well. So I think those are good points to keep in mind. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was in love with the fact that I had sonograms every week. Like, I am
Yeah.
a super like pro sonogrammer. I am a firm believer that if I would have had one or two more sonograms with Sophia, she would probably be here, right? Um, so I love that. But I was very into having a VBAC with Mateo, and I even hired a doula. So when I chose to have a C-section, I felt I was kind of betraying my body, and that was a process that I had to go through too, of grieving the birth I wanted with Mateo. Because I'm like, I always told myself after I had Sophia, the next birth I have, I want to feel everything. Like, I want to have like a natural birth. I
Right.
want to feel everything, like all the pain, whatever, because I want to feel like birth this baby, and I want to like have him like breathe on top of me and be like, oh my God, he's alive, you know?
Yeah.
And in the last minute, I decided like, no, just take him out. I don't want to like, don't induce me. I don't care. Like, I don't want to, just take him out. I need to see him breathe. Like, I cannot do it anymore. And I'm very grateful my doctor understood that. And she
Yeah.
was like, well, let's go for it, you know? And I even remember my husband being like, hey, like, what are you doing? I'm like, you don't even have to say this.
Right. Yeah.
Like, we are doing this because I need this. I need this. So yeah, to hear him cry was just magnificent, but it was a little, I'm gonna say it was a little bit traumatizing too. Like, it was
Yeah.
not a gentle cesarean. And then that postpartum period, I was surrounded by people that kind of understood, but didn't so well. Because
Yeah.
I mean, you don't understand until you walk on those shoes,
100%.
so it's hard. Um, Yeah, it was really hard for me to take a break. It was really hard for me to leave him with sun. I remember putting like that outlet monitor on him because I had to see that he was breathing. I was so afraid of SIDS. I was afraid of everything, like every little thing. I still am with him. I am like, I'm just afraid of everything with him.
Yeah.
Um, and with my daughter, it's more of a rock and roll thing. So yeah, there is, I think we don't talk a lot about the postpartum part. We talk a lot about the depression, but we don't talk a lot about the anxiety. And I had no one to like reaching out and saying, no doctors or anything, hey, how are you feeling? Do you have anxiety? Like, are you pumping? Like, what's going on? Like, no.
Yeah.
It's like, you got your baby, I'll see you in 6 weeks, and then bye.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was pretty stressful. It still is.
Yeah.
It still is. But then I sort of forgot it and then went for it again, I guess, and then got pregnant with my daughter. And in both births, like actual live births, I bled a lot in the beginning.
Okay.
So they like started equally, and I remember it's like 7 weeks and I was like bleeding. And over here in Puerto Rico, it's not like the US. Over here, you go to an urgent care, they do a sonogram, everything's fine. In Puerto Rico, you have to wait like 12 hours and go to an ER, and if the doctor hasn't like a space, then he'll see you. It's very complicated. So I did not get those progesterone injections. So I was thrown a lot of like uncertainties with Noah.
Mhm.
And then on top of that, imagine like a super anxious toddler mom, like a 1-year-old kid, super anxious mom, being pregnant, like in an island. And then my husband's like, hey, we're moving to Texas in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, okay. Obviously, wasn't going to stay here by myself, not by myself, but without
Yeah,
my
yeah.
husband.
Right.
So I had I had to move and leave everything I knew behind, leave that doctor that I had like such a connection with behind and build that trust to trust the US system again.
Yeah.
So that was like very hard for me, going to an unknown place. And I I obviously looked for I remember I was like, I don't care if we have to pay out of pocket. You're gonna look for the most high-end doctor of Austin, Texas.
Yes.
Like this doctor has to have like, the Mayo
Top
Clinic award. Like
certificates.
this doctor needs to be the most non-crunchy doctor in the universe. He has to be the one who gives me like weekly sonograms, like does like all the blood work. I don't care. And that's what we did. And it was actually a pretty cool doctor. I did want to have a VBAC 2C, but they were very tough on a no. And at some point, I did try to hire like a midwife, but something in my heart said, don't take the risk. And I just had to follow that, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I could give you detail by detail, but we would be here like for 24 hours.
Yeah.
But to shorten it, I had bleeding. They didn't want to give me injections. It was a very different system, but they did check me every 2 weeks. They were more empathic than Puerto Rico and definitely different from Atlanta,
Yeah.
Georgia. And I remember I went in like 2 or 3 times to the ER. This was during COVID, so
Oh,
I COVID on top of that.
yeah.
Yeah, my husband couldn't be on in anything because who's going to take care of my family,
Yeah.
right? So I remember just thinking, what if this baby is like dead inside of me? Who's going to tell him? Like, I'm going to have all these emotions by myself and then tell him. Like, it was tough, but we made it through and everything went normal. And at 30 weeks, 35 weeks, that girl broke my rib.
Oh no. Did she kick
She
it?
was getting, I think she was like, I made such a like little belly. She was a little baby too. But if
Yeah.
you know her now, you're like, of course she broke her rib. Um, I think she was getting into position and she broke my rib. And I went to the hospital for that. Um, they gave me morphine, sent me home. 2 weeks later, I had a pain that it was not contraction pain. It was just like this horrible pain. Wait, my husband's computer turned off and all the light went away. Okay. This horrible contractions pain that wouldn't go away. I could not walk. It was the day before my baby shower. And I went into the hospital and they hooked me up and her heart rate was just dropping. And
Oh,
in the States, they first send a midwife before your OB. And I remember the midwife saying, okay, this is not normal. Let me call the OB on call. So you're like, wait, what's going on? Like, why is her heart rate dropping? Like, is there something going on with her? And my first thought is like, okay, I'm gonna give birth to this baby and she's gonna die.
yeah.
That's like my first thought. Um, but this angel of a doctor, I don't know where she came from. I've never seen her in my life. It wasn't even my doctor. She's like, how are you feeling? Okay, baby, it's not doing good. We're gonna do an emergency C-section, but I want to do a conscious C-section. I know your history. Everything's gonna be okay. Your baby is not gonna die. So here I'm like bawling my eyes out,
Right.
being taken to the ER once again in the States. I remember entering, because I don't know if you know, when you're gonna get a C-section, you have to go in by yourself. Like your partner or whatever your support person is can't go in until you're open.
Yeah.
Like that's when they can come in. So having to do that walk by myself all over the hospital again to get to that room to have my epidural, it just gave me flashbacks and everything was happening so fast and I was so afraid. And then I remember Rodrigo coming in and everything melted away, and I'm like, I was talking to my baby. I was like, "Please don't die. Just like hold on. I'll see you on the other side. Like don't die. Like please, please, please." And I had a God-given team, I swear. Like it was the gentlest C-section I've ever had. Um, they numbed me, but I was like super conscious. I was having a conversation with the doctor and with my husband, and the anesthesiologist was on top of me all the time. How are you doing? Like everything's gonna be okay. I see this, I see that. And it was like such a gentle, and the environment was so gentle that when she was about to be born, we didn't even notice because we were like all in a conversation. And I remember the doctor saying, "Oh my gosh, she has a lot of hair."
No.
And I tell my husband, shut up, she's gonna be born. She's gonna be born right now." And she came out crying, and they handed me my baby, and that's she's been on top of me ever since.
Never left your side, right?
Yeah,
Because she's
never left
what,
my side.
like 2 or 3 now? About,
She
or is
turned
she going on 4?
3 last week.
Oh, so
Yeah, she
cute.
turned 3 last week. I feel that experience was so healing in so many ways.
Yeah.
I feel it healed the C-section I had with Sofia with the US system. I feel it healed the experience I didn't get to have with Mateo.
Yeah.
And in some way, it was my daughter, like, another daughter. It comes with a conversation of, it's a girl. It's different from Mateo. Um, and it was just beautiful. They were super respectful. I was conscious all the time. I remember I was like very into, I'm not gonna breastfeed. I breastfed immediately. I had such a good supply. The doctors were so respectful. I was like walking and FaceTiming 45 minutes after. Like it was insane. It was like the
Yeah.
perfect C-section. I had no pain. I was walking like 3 hours later. Um, and I think I spent like a day and a half in the hospital, and I went home.
Yeah.
And then I went home, and that postpartum anxiety came back. And then I was like, why did I do this to myself?
Yeah.
I remember, yeah. So I remember being home and just all these feelings like I loved my baby, but something we don't talk a lot about is like having two babies, and then how can you divide yourself between all of these babies and then give attention to everyone and still be a wife and do it all with a C-section. It was all very intense, and I had a lot of postpartum anxiety too with that and some depression. It took me some time. I'm now starting to feel like myself again. I was telling my husband, finally, and Mateo's about to be 5,
Yeah.
and now I'm starting to feel a little bit like myself again. So the mamas who expect to be back, like the pressure society gives mothers to be back at like 3, 4 weeks, you need to be back working and whatever. No, dude, that's not how it works. Like it's taking me more than 5 years to be here,
Yeah.
to
Well, it's not
be able to
practical.
be like, okay,
It's
yeah,
not
no,
super
it's
practical, number one, especially after a C-section. And
mhm,
especially if you've got other little ones that you're like managing and taking care of. If you're tandem breastfeeding or any of those things on top of it, like there's so many different dynamics that go into that. And then with like the nutrients that I don't know if it's the best word to use, but when baby steals mom's nutrients, um, which is
yeah,
kind of what they do, it's called postpartum depletion. So, like, you give a lot of your
mhm,
nutrients to your baby just in general, not just for like the breastfeeding, but to grow your baby. So, it's not uncommon for it to peak at 4 years, but it can go all the way to 10 years, which is a crazy thing that no one really talks about. So, it's not uncommon, like you're saying, that I'm like starting to feel like me again. So, it's totally normal,
mhm,
but we always, yeah, assume like 6 weeks and you should be back. Because especially in the US, like they expect us to go back to work after what, 4 weeks? Not even, which is insanity.
yeah, it's insanity, and they
Insanity.
expect dads to go back to work too.
Yeah.
like 2 weeks, and it sucks because you need a whole team for a lot of time. And in my case, I had a toddler and a baby, and I was by myself in the States, and my husband had to go back a week after I had given birth.
Yeah.
So here I am by myself without help. But companies don't see that.
Yeah.
They don't care. They don't care about you. Like that's the norm. Just suck it up, kids in daycare and go to work, you know?
Yeah.
And it was tough. And when was it? Not September, I would say July, August, I told my husband, I can't do it anymore. I need to go back home. I'm not rooted here. This is not
Yeah.
working for me. It's not working for my kids. This is not the environment I want to bring my kids up in. And the reality is, the States, I have nothing against the States. The States have given me great opportunities, and I met the most amazing friends, and I love it. It's very convenient and whatever. But it's really charged too. Like it has a very charged energy, and it's a very fast-paced life versus
Definitely.
an island. Um, at some point last year, I took him out of school because I couldn't handle all the mass shootings going on. I think when the Uvalde situation happened,
Mhm.
I was like, okay, this is it for me. No, I didn't like birth these children and go through like all this trauma to have them taken away at,
Yeah.
their safe place and fun place, which is supposed to be school. So, but that's another topic. But that's a place where I felt more at home, where I had my tribe, and it's been amazing. I've found a really good support system here, a really big tribe of mothers, believe it or not.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I know a lot of friends from Life University are coming back from Puerto Rico, are moving back here.
Yeah.
And their moms now too. So it's been good. It's been good. But out of all the contexts, I can say that you can't mother alone. Like there's no way. I mean, some women do it and it's amazing, and single mothers, like I don't know how they do it, but they do it. But we're, we're not, supposed to do it that way. Like
Right.
it's horrifying the expectations we put on mothers to like do. It's crazy. It's crazy to me. It's crazy.
Yeah. I would think single moms probably come from a survival mode. You know what I mean? That's how they're able to do it.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about like having baby, they always talk about it takes a village. Well, it does. And in a lot of cultures outside of the
Yeah, it
US and
does.
Western culture, you have many generations, like aunties and uncles and grandparents and great grandparents. Like there's so many different generational people that are helping out within the household to take care of and nurture the children. Because, like you said, there's only one of you.
Hmm.
And mom can do
Yeah.
lots. Mom is a superhero in lots of ways. But it's good because mom needs the mental help too. She needs to be able to step away from kids for a little bit, take her break, do her things, be herself again. Because
Yes.
she's more than just a mom. I mean, that is one title and one crown she
Hmm.
gets to wear, but she has many other crowns as well. And so, yeah, I'm glad that you were able to get back to having a community to help support you and help with those cute little kiddos and a slower paced life because I totally get it in the US. I live in Florida, so it's a little bit slower paced in some ways, but it's still
Yeah.
the US.
There's a lot of Puerto Ricans in Florida, so
Oh, yeah, for sure.
like a lot. But yeah, it definitely. I mean, I have friends that thrive in Texas and they love it, and that's their community and they thrive in it. I think it depends on how you're raised and what your roots are and what it comes down to again.
Yeah.
Because I don't know,
Well, also what your goals for the kids
it's
are.
all very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course, yeah. But with that, like parenthesis with coming here too, it's been very one aspect that has been everything has pros and cons that has very hard has been how I raise my children. As you know, I'm like very conscious. I wouldn't say I'm like 100% crunchy, especially not here in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
I've had to like take it down like 100 nudges because we don't have the same things that we had in the States.
Right.
Um, the people here don't have that mentality. People here are very differently rooted too. They believe, gentle parenting is like you're just not putting the correct order in your child and that children should be left alone to cry. And, you know, you're coming here, you're looking for support, but also you have to be conscious that you're breaking a lot of generational traditions that are just, you know, not gonna sit with you. My kids are not gonna eat 20 lollipops. I'm just so sorry for you. And that's tough. That's tough for people to hear. Like, no, he can't have two pieces of cake.
Right.
And that's tough for people when I say no.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's something we don't talk about either, how hard it is when you're clashing between situations. I mean, I don't know how open can we be in this conversation.
As open as you want.
But
Yeah.
there are some like medical decisions I chose not to do with my children.
Yeah.
And over here, um, it's very frowned upon. Let's start by that. Like,
Yeah.
there's no medical exemptions. The only way you can get it done is if you belong to a church.
Gotcha.
So we're a part of a church now because,
You don't want the
it was the only way to get
cupcakes.
them into school.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't have an exemption or, that card they give you when you do that medical thing, then your kids can't go to school.
Right.
It is how it is. The government here is pretty tough on that. And then my elders or my family, they don't see that either. They're not as, open-minded as I am, and they don't have the information I have, and that's pretty tough too. Like, yeah, you have your village and it's awesome, but then again, what happens when your village doesn't agree with you?
Yeah.
And,
That's true.
you're clashing all the time. That's like a really important topic.
Yeah. Because that's a big stress too, then, as well, for mom and for
Mm-hmm.
family and probably even the kiddos too, to realize, why is mom saying no, but everyone else is saying yes,
Yes,
those
yes.
aspects too. But I think being
Yeah.
more in the crunchy community with those that I know that parent their kids, and like it's all about educating them too. So when they're 18, when they're
Mm-hmm.
adults or when they're older, they can make their own decisions and decide, do I want to eat Cheetos for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Do I want to stop at McDonald's for every single meal? They get to make that decision later.
Yeah.
But, when they're a kid, we explain to them, that McDonald's hamburger, if you let it sit for 7 years, it stays the same. So maybe that's not the best decision to make.
Yeah, I
So when you
know.
can explain that kind of stuff to them, helps out a little bit. And
Yeah,
and a
but then
lot of kids get it.
when they're yeah, but when they're little and their friends are eating that and they're not eating that, you can explain it to them 15 times and they're like, Mom, you're evil. What the heck?
Right.
So yeah, but when like grandma eats it, when my uncle eats it,
Yeah.
and then your friends eat at a party, but you're not allowed, then mommy's the bad person.
Yeah.
But I've learned that I have to be flexible and um I can't be as strict as I was in the States because we don't have the resources here. So,
Yeah.
at some point also I can't torture my kids. If everyone's having a cupcake at school, then have your damn cupcake.
Yeah.
Not every day, of course. Um, I don't think it's fair either to like torture them and be like, no, you can't have this. And then everyone else is, even though you
Right.
explain it to them 20 times, because they're kids, and I mean, at least me, I don't want to be that parent that's like, everything's a no.
Right.
Like, so I try to balance that crunchy lifestyle with some options that I've had to like let go. Motherhood could be resumed in letting go and learning new things every day.
Definitely.
Nobody knows how to be a mother. I think I still don't know how to be a mother. I'm like trying to do my best every day, and it's pretty damn hard because you're raising the future.
Yeah.
Um, and then you have these awesome little kids, and I don't know what I'm doing every single day. So,
I
yeah,
don't think any of us do, even just being an adult in general. When we were kids, we always thought,
yeah,
when I'm 20, I'll have it all figured out. And then you're like, okay, when I'm 30, I'll have it all figured out. And then you get there and you're like, none of us had it figured out. Even our parents didn't have it figured out.
I
So I
know.
think that's part of it. It's just part of
It's
that journey to gain experiences and learn from them and, move forward with better decisions. And with the whole crunchy aspect, there have been times where I'm like, I'm going to be 100%. And then I'm like, well, that's not even logical.
mm,
It's not even possible. So having that flexibility in all aspects of life, I think is necessary. Just in general, it seems, or at least what I'm learning on this journey in life.
yeah, it,
If you were to
yeah,
have, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, no, I know one goes insane, but yeah, if
Yeah.
I were to have what?
If you were to have baby number four, would there be anything that you would change or do differently or hope for with the next pregnancy or birth?
Well, baby number four is not happening. Like, I'm done. Let me tell you that right now, I am done. Um, Emotionally, I don't think I could take it really.
Yeah.
Um, I don't, especially now that I am at a stage where my kids are getting some independence.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping. They're very independent. And like I said, I'm starting to feel like myself a little bit
Yeah.
again. Baby number four is not happening. But if I were to have a baby number four, I think, I mean, if I would birth it here, I think I wouldn't change much. I would push for that VBAC 3C. That's something I always stayed with, and I've felt very guilty for a lot of time, and I still do. Um, I still do. Like, I wish I have had that. I wish I would have chosen to go through it with Mateo, but I know the decision I made at that point was the decision I needed to make for myself. So I made that decision for me.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. And then for Noah, I had no other choice, right? For but I would choose to push for a hospital VBAC 3C. Um, I don't know if they are legal in Puerto Rico. I'm not sure. I know the states have like a lot of restriction against VBACs 2C. I remember when I was in Austin, figuring out we were going to have another baby, there wasn't like an OB that would do a VBAC 3C in a hospital. And
Right.
for me, it needed to be in a hospital. So yeah, if we were in a perfect world and I would have baby number three, I think number four, it would be like VBAC 3C. I would take away the pressure I put on myself on breastfeeding.
Oh, yeah.
Look, I think I not wasted, but I spent so much energy on breastfeeding I because of what I saw on social media and what people were saying. And with Mateo, I breastfed him until he was about two because I felt so guilty of not doing it. And in the end, it was causing me like a lot of like hurt. Like I was hurting. It was emotionally distressing, like distressing for him, for me.
Yeah.
And I think for Noah, I just stopped at like a year. I was like, girl, you're good. Like, we're good. But I think I would not put that pressure on myself if I, if we, if at that moment I birthed, I would feel like, okay, I'm going to breastfeed. I would have. If not, I would formula feed. Um, there are some really good formulas out there that are not made in the US. They're from Europe, and
Yeah.
there are some new ones in the US that I've learned about. So I think I would not put that pressure on breastfeeding, and I would definitely surround myself with a community that would help me, and I would let people help me. That's another thing I did not do. I wanted to do everything for myself. Like, I did not want anyone to help me. Like, my babies, my situation, I think I would give space for people to help me
Yeah.
because you need help. And what else? Yeah, I think that's it. And not buy so much stuff because babies don't need like a lot. They just need diapers and, food.
Yeah.
That's it.
Naked babies. They
So
just
I
need
think
diapers.
that's what I would. Yeah, it's the truth. It's the truth. Like now, as a like old mom, like I'd say, I see all these moms with their like registries, and I want to say like you will never use that.
Right?
Like you want to set up you set up this beautiful crib. I mean, and some people do. I have friends that do, and it's magnificent for them. Not taking credit away from anyone. But my kids never used a crib. My kids sleep in my bed, and they're
Yeah.
3 and 4. You know.
Yeah.
Um. So yeah, I would take the shame away from co-sleeping. I was shamed a lot about that, with both babies. And I think I would just take a lot of the guilt away from every decision I
Yeah.
made. And I would trust my gut and stop like double thinking everything because society or because social media or because a pediatrician told me something, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's what I would do differently.
That's a great one. I think there is so much, like you
Yeah.
said, mom guilt, but just also not trusting your intuition on it. Like for Noah's
Yeah.
birth, you're like, I feel like I need to have this in the hospital. So I think you always just
Mm-hmm.
have to trust your gut on it. Like there's some women that are like, no, I have to have this baby at home. But if your gut is saying it
Mm-hmm.
has to be at the hospital and it has to be C-section, that's what your body is saying and that's what the baby is requiring. Like you don't know what else could have gone
Mm-hmm.
wrong if you hadn't done that, or there's so many what ifs in this whole scenario. So I think that's the biggest thing, trusting the gut on it and trusting your intuition on like the co-sleeping and all that. Yeah, just trusting the gut. You got to get back into that.
Yeah. Yeah. The gut is like it's crazy important. Like it's insane. It's insane. I would say as a mother, it's insane. Like I've had situations where everyone else is saying something and I'm like, no, it's not that. Like this is what's going on. And pediatricians are like, no, like do this. And I'm like, no, my gut is telling me this is what's going on. Test him for this. And it
Yeah.
turns out mom has the answer in the end. Yeah, you're right. Um, so yeah,
Well, even
the
with
gut is
Sophia, when you had mentioned
it's,
that
it's pretty
they weren't
scary.
listening to you too, when you're like, something's going on and they wouldn't do as much testing, it's all about the gut. You're like, no, there's something here. I've heard that with so many different birth stories, and unfortunately, too,
No,
where
I really.
we're at the like third baby, fourth baby, and we're like, this baby's coming, and doctor's like, no, it's not. And then like 5 minutes later, baby's here. It's like, listen,
Hmm.
we know what's going on when
Yeah,
we're in tune with it.
yeah, I remember, like I vividly remember at some point in my pregnancy with Sophia, let's say 25 to 26 weeks, I could not think of her being a toddler and a grown-up kid. Like I could not. Like I don't know if it was like my intuition or my body's way or my or life's way of telling me, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
I could not picture myself with her as a baby, and I could not see her growing up. And I remember when I went to a support group about moms losing their children,
Mhm.
someone had the same story and it resonated with me. And she's like, at some point I couldn't imagine, like I couldn't picture it. Like my mind wouldn't picture it. And I don't know, 3 weeks later I lost her or him, and I don't remember what it was really well, but it happens. And with Noah, like I was so into this VBAC and I was like, I want to do it, I want to do it. We even found a doctor that would do it in the hospital. I remember
Mhm.
now. We even found a doctor that would do it the VBAC Tuesday in a hospital. But I remember telling Rodrigo, like everything in me is telling me no.
Yeah.
It's telling me no. I need to have her like with this doctor in this hospital. And, if she wants to come out like naturally, let's do it. Like, out the door. Like I've always were like that crazy car scenario where I'm having a baby.
Right.
But um yeah, but no. And it was perfect for her because her heart rate was decelerating and she was in distress. And we wouldn't have known that because I wasn't showing any symptoms. I was not contracting. I just had horrible pains that they didn't, couldn't describe
Right.
where it was coming from. I know I just couldn't walk. And there were no actual symptoms you could see. I was not dilated. I was like zero. I had zero contractions. I had like all the belts, but when they put her heart rate her heart rate was dropping like crazy, and the doctor's like, "We're okay. We need to get her out now."
Yeah.
So I could have said, this pain can go away. I'm just gonna go home and lay in bed and just let it come naturally. And I don't know what would have happened. So
Yeah.
I remember being like, "Okay, let's go to the hospital. Let's see what's going on." And effectively, that girl needed to come out, and she's like that.
Come out and sparkle
She's a
early.
very spunky child. Oh yeah, she's a very spunky, powerful child.
Yeah.
Like so powerful. I'm telling you, this girl is gonna change the world. She's
I love
she's
it
Mateo's opposite. I mean, Mateo will change the world too, but he's like the
in a
calm
different
child.
way.
He, yeah, he's like so calm and he's like so nurturing and so loving. And then this girl, she walks into a room and you know,
You know she's there.
she's the girl. She's like, I'm here. Like
I love
it's
it.
she's very powerful. She's a powerhouse, and I love it. I'm all for it, and I'm all for protecting that. And a lot of people want to tear that down. A lot of people do not like powerful children, especially
Yeah.
powerful girls. And I'm like, no, you're a powerful child. Go for this. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Keep honing in on it. Yeah.
yeah,
So she doesn't dim her little sparkle.
yeah.
That's awesome. I have
No,
one
I
last
want.
question for you. If
Okay,
motherhood was a song or there was like a theme song to your life, could you pick a theme song to your life right now?
probably not. Crazy. Probably not.
What about movie genre?
Um, it would be everything. It would be like drama, like suspense, like comedy, because motherhood's like a whirlwind of. Sorry, my phone keeps like going away.
Okay.
It's a whirlwind of like everything. Um, if I would say dedicate a song to my kids, like something I want them to live their life by,
Oh,
it's
that'd
the
be a good
Humble
one.
and Kind song by, yeah, that's
That's
one I
good.
always think about that.
I like that.
Yeah,
That's a good one too for
like
the kiddos.
I'm a
Theme
Puerto
song
Rican
for the kiddos.
girl that loves like, yeah, that loves country music.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, I love my country music, but I also love my Pitbull too, so
Yeah,
I get it. Little differences on
yeah,
those two.
yeah. I
Well,
don't
I
know, I'm just a little Puerto Rican girl that has a cowgirl
likes her
inside.
cowboy boots and
Tex
I
yes,
love it.
yes, yes, yes,
Nothing
yes.
wrong with that. Thank you for listening to this empowering episode of Vibrant Beginnings, hosted by me, Dr. Ashley Thomas. This podcast is powered by Creating Vibrant Families, where our mission is to help couples on their journey to conception, gain health for radiant pregnancies through to birth. Follow along for more empowering journeys to parenthood. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Have a good day. Bye.